The room was already convinced before the trial even began. Every eye had settled on one person. Every whisper carried the same quiet conclusion. This case was simple, too simple, and that was the first mistake. Because hidden in plain sight was the quietest clue no one noticed. If stories like this pull you in, stay with this one. The ending changes everything. The accused sat still, no reaction, no panic, just silence. That silence made things worse. The prosecution moved quickly, confident, prepared, certain. They laid out the timeline like a straight line. Clean, sharp, unbreakable. An incident, a witness, a motive. Everything fit too well. The courtroom followed along without resistance. Heads nodded. Pens moved. It all made sense. And yet, something felt off. Not loud, not obvious, just off. The defense barely pushed back. No dramatic objections, no sudden revelations, just quiet listening. That made the room uneasy. Because when someone has nothing to say, people assume they have nothing to defend. The first witness took the stand. Calm, clear, confident. The story flowed easily. Too easily. Every detail landed exactly where it should. Time, location, action. Perfect. The prosecution smiled slightly. This was going exactly as planned. But in the back of the room, someone frowned. Not at the story. At something smaller, something barely noticeable. The witness mentioned a sound, a small detail, almost forgettable. Most people ignored it. But that sound didn't match the timeline. Not exactly. It was close. Close enough to pass, but not close enough to be true. Still, no one said anything. The trial moved forward. The second witness stepped in. Different angle, same conclusion. Everything pointed in one direction. Everything confirmed the first story. Or at least, it seemed that way. The same small detail appeared again. That sound, mentioned casually. Like it didn't matter. But it did. It mattered more than everything else. Because it wasn't supposed to be there. The defense finally stood. Slowly, the room leaned forward. Now something would happen. But, instead of attacking the story, they asked one simple question. Not about the crime, not about the motive, about the timing of that sound. The witness hesitated, just for a second, then answered confidently. Too confidently. The courtroom relaxed again. But something had shifted. Something tiny, something quiet, the kind of shift people feel but can't explain. The prosecution stepped in quickly, redirected, smoothed it over. Back to control, back to certainty. But that tiny crack remained, invisible to most, but growing. The third witness changed everything, not because of what they said, but because of what they didn't say. They told the same story, same timeline, same sequence, but they never mentioned the sound. Not once. The room didn't notice. It blended in. It felt normal. But now the silence around that detail was louder than before. Why did two witnesses hear it? And one didn't. The defense noticed. They didn't react immediately. They waited. Let the inconsistency breathe. Let it settle. The judge leaned back slightly, not convinced, but no longer completely certain. That was new. The prosecution pushed harder. More evidence, more structure, trying to rebuild the perfect picture. But perfection had already been broken, even if no one admitted it yet. The accused still said nothing. Still calm. Still watching. That silence now felt different. Not empty. Controlled. Like someone waiting. The courtroom grew restless. Something was happening beneath the surface. Something no one could fully see yet. Then the defense stood again. This time they didn't ask about people. They asked about the environment, the space, the conditions. Small things, irrelevant things. At least, that's what it looked like. Lighting, distance, background noise. The courtroom shifted uncomfortably. This felt unnecessary, pointless, but the questions kept coming. Slow, precise, each one tightening something invisible. Then came the moment, a single question, about that sound again. But this time, connected to the environment. The witness paused longer, much longer, because now the detail didn't fit anymore. Not with the new context, not with the physical reality. The sound couldn't have happened the way they described. It was impossible. The courtroom didn't react immediately. It took a second, then another. Then it landed. Hard. If that sound was wrong, then the timing was wrong. If the timing was wrong, then everything built on it collapsed. The prosecution tried to recover, tried to explain it away. Memory error, stress, but it didn't hold, because now the inconsistency was visible, clear, unavoidable. The defense did not stop. They brought it back to the second witness. Same question, same hesitation, same problem. Now, it wasn't a coincidence. It was a pattern of something constructed, something rehearsed. The room changed completely. Confidence turned into doubt. Quiet whispers returned. But now, they sounded different. The judge leaned forward, focused, watching closely now, because the simple case was no longer simple. The defense made one final move. They reconstructed the timeline without the impossible detail. And suddenly, the accused couldn't have been there. Not at that moment. Not in that way. The entire structure fell apart. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Like it had never been strong to begin with. The prosecution had nothing left to hold on to, because their certainty was built on something fragile, something small, something they thought no one would notice. That sound, that quiet, forgettable clue, the thing everyone ignored, was the thing that exposed everything. The courtroom sat in silence. Real silence this time. Heavy, undeniable. The accused remained still. But now, that stillness made sense, because the truth didn't need noise. It just needed one mistake, and someone patient enough to see it. The verdict came later. But by then, everyone already knew. The case hadn't been strong. It had just been loud. And in the end, it wasn't the big evidence that changed everything. It wasn't the witnesses. It wasn't the arguments. It was something smaller, something quieter, something almost invisible. The kind of detail people overlook every day, until it's too late. The courtroom didn't notice the quietest clue, until it was the only thing that mattered.